Hey guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a video that I think I do every year, and that is 20 books that should have made the Goodreads Choice Awards, specifically in romance, and I am basing this off of what I have read and what I have loved and what I've seen everybody else love. So a combination of all those. I definitely think there were some books that absolutely should have made the list this year that were left off, and I have 6 from the original list that I agreed with. So I have a lot sitting here. We're gonna go ahead and get to it. And now the difference between me and Goodreads is I love indie romances and I will put indie romances on my list. So I do have a bunch of indies and I do have a historical that I loved that I'm like, this should be on this list. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna talk about the 6 that I think should stay on this list. So the first one is King of Pride by Ana Huang. I think Ana Huang's gonna be on this list every single year for the rest of her writing career because her books are so good. Twisted Hate was on there last year. King of Pride is on there this year. I would have loved either King of Pride or King of Greed to be on there. It is her King of Sin series. I actually gave both 5 stars. This one, Kai, was everything. The heroine is a bartender at the club that he's a part of, and it's a club for like the elite people, and he is definitely someone who works and he wants to succeed, and he's very prideful of a lot of things, especially like he doesn't want her to be better than him. Like there's a scene where she's really good at the piano and he's like, she can't be better than me. So I think it's really funny. They're dynamic and I love Kai so much as a hero. This was so good, so for sure should be on this list. We also have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Love, love, love this one. I've seen so many people reading it. The audio is phenomenal. Jacob Morgan does a fantastic job as this hero. I think that the representation in Abby's books is really great. This one, he has anxiety, and the heroine, just what she does to just like make him feel okay and at ease, and like she like literally sends him directions of where to park, or she does things that she knows he's anxious about and helps him in that way. And I love like her awareness of him and not thinking he was like a burden or anything. Like she just understood and wanted him to feel comfortable, and it was amazing. They're both doctors. She's getting over a breakup. I love this one. We have a 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I love The Dead Romantics and this one, and I'm so happy more people are loving her books. They have a little bit of a kind of paranormal aspect to them. This one, she lives in an apartment that her grandmother left her, and it slips back 7 years in time so she can see who was living there 7 years ago. It is someone who was staying in her apartment as like a favor, so they start falling in love, and she has not yet like lived out their past, but the hero in the future has. Like he's lived everything from 7 years ago already, so they meet again in the present, and it is so good. I love this so much. It's just so unique and I love her. Then we do have Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This one I really loved. I was excited to see any Lauren Asher book on this list. This one is actually my favorite in the series. It's a small town and he's a billionaire and they're like heirs to like Disneyland basically, and it's second chance and so good. That's all I really want to say about this, but it's a chunky book and I read it in a night. So definitely check out the series if you haven't yet, but I'm excited Lauren Asher was on this list. We also have Pucking Around by Emily Rath. This one blew up this year and I read it and I really, really loved it. This one is a Why Choose Hockey romance, and I just love the dynamic because she individually fell in love with each guy. There's 3 of them, but then 2 of them are best friends that are also dealing with their feelings for one another. So it's a really interesting dynamic of this relationship, and there's so much hockey. She's a trainer for the team as well, so 2 of them are hockey players and one of them is the equipment manager, and just the dynamic of all the relationships was perfect. It's long, but so good, and I just loved it, and I'm really happy that this was on the list. And the last one from the original list is going to be The Right Move by Liz Tomford. I really enjoyed this one. I think Caught Up could have been on this list, but if we're talking about a book that really swept the romance community, it would be The Right Move. I loved this as well. I really loved Ryan Shea. He is just like book boyfriend material, so perfect, and it's just like such a swoony read, and it's roommates and the heroine is trying to get over her bad breakup, and it's fake dating, and it just has like all the little like candy tropes. Like you love it and you want to eat it up like candy and you can't put it down. So I'm excited to read Caught Up, but I can see why this was on this list. I do have one that's the other book by this author that I should have been on this list, but we have my top 3 right now. We have Shadows of You by Catherine Cowles. This book, people obsessed over, and I'm so happy. So this is Small Town. If you guys know, I'm Catherine Cowell's #1 fan. This is a Grump Sunshine single mom romance. They meet because she has an injured deer on her property. She calls like wildlife for help, and he comes out and helps, and he was accused of murder when he was younger, so he's just like very not trusting of anybody. So he kind of opens up to her. The daughter's so cute as well, and I'm obsessed with this book, and it's actually on the Amazon top 20 romances of the year, which is very exciting. But this was so good. So happy that so many people are loving this. This is definitely by far like the most popular in the series so far, but I cannot wait for Lawson's book. But yes, obviously one of them on this list that should be there. This one I was shocked was not on the list because I'm obsessed with this book. It's trad. It was popular when it came out. Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. Like, this book, there wasn't even in the debut category. She's a debut book. She did write fan fiction before, but debut didn't have like any romances in it either, which was very disappointing. But this one was a second chance romance, wedding romance, where she's a wedding planner. He is a wedding florist, and we get flashbacks between the past and the present of them falling in love in the past, and then in the future they have to work together, and they haven't talked to each other, and it's so awkward because they obviously broke each other's hearts. And they're so damaged by it, and the hero is just so in love with her, and I was obsessed with him. Teddy Hamilton narrates it, and I was obsessed with the audiobook. One of my favorite books of the year, and I'm so sad this was not on the list. Like, this book, it was so good. I was obsessed. So obsessed. If you have not read this yet, please do. I'm so excited for her next book. Okay, so the next one is by an author that was on this list, but Reckless should have been on this list. Reckless is Theo and Winter's story, and it's my favorite of the series. Powerless is a close second, and that's the one that was on this list, which I was very surprised by, but this one is so good. Like, you cannot get over Theo. Theo and Winter have a one-night stand. They act like they can't stand each other. Well, more like Winter can't stand him. She's very prickly. He's very like happy-go-lucky, sunshiny kind of character. So it's Grump Sunshine, where the heroine is the Grump, the hero is the Sunshine. He is a bull rider. They hook up, then he goes on his bull riding tour, and she has a baby. And he doesn't know. And we get a time jump, and then he figures out he had a kid. And he's like horrified that he was not there for this child. And he is doing anything in his power to make it up to Winter and be there for her and protect her and love her, and it is amazing. It is so good. I'm obsessed with this book, and my favorite in the series. Just like 100% book boyfriend material. Love him. Then we have Something Wild and Wonderful by Anita Kelly. I read this in one sitting. I had a car ride that was like 10 hours long. I read this and I cried. Like, I never cry in books. This book was amazing. It is an MM romance on the Pacific Coast Trail, where one of them, he was so close to his family, but they're very religious, and he came out and they cut him off, and he does not know what to do. He doesn't know how to grapple with his life now without his family, and so he is going on the Pacific Coast Trail. And the other hero has other things going on in his life that he is grappling with. They end up running into each other on the trail and walking together and fall so deeply in love with one another, and they both have a lot to work through though, but it is so good. And they're such different characters too, going through just really different things and not knowing how they can fit into each other's lives. The setting was amazing. Like, I loved how they were secluded on this trail together and just trying to survive. Not like dangerous survive, but you know, like hiking together, and it's so good, and it's so sad. It's a romance, don't worry, they do end up together, but one of them is just going through so much, and I just wanted to hug him and love him, and it's so good. Then I do have this as a paperback, but I haven't opened my package yet. We have After the Storm by Laura Pavlov. This one swept the romance community by storm as well. It was in the top of the charts, and it was #2 behind Iron Flame, and this one is so good. It's one of my favorite books of the year. Laura just killed it with this book. It is a second chance romance, single dad. He is a vet and she's a lawyer, and she's back in her hometown because her dad had some sort of medical thing happen, and she's taking care of him, and she sees him, and they did not end on a good note. They realized they could not be together anymore, broke up, and haven't really spoken to each other since. She got married almost immediately, and he had a kid. And so now he's a single dad, and she is back in town, and they can't stay away from each other. And they're like, well, maybe we can just have something for while she's home. She is a hotshot lawyer in New York. She is, I think, partner of a firm. She like can't move away. She's like has this great life in New York, and so they don't know if they can ever make it work, so they're like, let's just be together now. Very emotional, very angsty, and it is so good. I love this one so much. 100% read it. It has all the tropes that I love. Second chance if you can't tell. is my favorite, so pick it up. Then we have The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. This one was such a pleasant surprise because it was her debut adult romance. I've read a couple of her YA ones, but this one was so good, and it has to do with an author. So the heroine, she works in publishing, but not the publishing she really wants to work in, and she messages this fantasy author that's her favorite who hasn't written in a while, and she doesn't expect anything of it, but then he emails back and they start emailing and they kind of fall for each other, and then he ghosts her. And then this new guy moves in to her apartment complex, and it's him. And he realizes who she is because he realizes things that she shared, and she doesn't know who he is. And so he is getting a deal for his books and writing again, and it's their romance. If you would like romances about books and working in the book industry, I think you would really love this one. It is so good, and I love Christina Forrest so much. I actually got to interview her on my channel. I can link that down below if you're interested in watching, but this one was so good, and I definitely recommend checking it out. Then I'm shocked Katerina Mora did not end up on this list, and the only release I've read by her this year is The Temporary Wife, so I'm gonna include that on this list. This one is a marriage of convenience romance. The hero, typically the men in the family are matched up by the grandmother to marry someone, and he doesn't want that to happen, so he asks his assistant to marry him, and he has actually had a thing for her for a long time, and it's so good. And they end up having a marriage of convenience, and she is promised like to be able to do things in the company, and she does, and it's a marriage of convenience, like I said. And I think that Katerina Mora does Billionaire and Marriage of Convenience so well. I was obsessed with book 1 in the series. This is book 2. I'm 2 books behind now. I know I have to read them, but she kills it with her releases, and I am for sure going to read the rest of the series, but she should have been on this list. Then I read this year, and it blew me away, and that is The Rest of the Story by Tal Bauer. I definitely shed a few tears in this one. It's MM, it's hockey, and so good. This is about 2 hockey players, and one of the hockey players, he ends up being traded to a team that is like a death sentence to anybody's career. They're the worst in the league, and he's just, okay, I guess I'm going here. And he instantly realizes something's a little off about the team, and he slowly uncovers what's happening, and he ends up kind of being pushed in the position of being the captain of the team and rallying them and showing them what a true team and family are like and getting rid of the toxicity. So he ends up falling for a rookie on the team who's actually a little older because he went to college first and played in college, and they both are kind of put in charge of their respective groups, right? So they're both kind of leaders on the team and always end up around each other and end up really falling in love. And this has such found family, and definitely like rooting for the underdog as a hockey team and learning to play together and work together, and the 2 of them start falling in love. And it is so good and so emotional, and I just want to like hug all of them and protect them and keep them safe because they go through so much together. But the romance is amazing. One of my favorite books of the year. Cannot wait to read more from this author. Then I have a QB Tyler release. I have Keep Her Safe. This one is a bodyguard romance, and it is so good. It is an age gap. She actually had him as her bodyguard from when she was a teenager, and she was crushing on him hardcore and made a move on him. And he's like, this can't happen. I want to quit. But then her parents pass away, and he's like, I cannot abandon her now. So he stays with her. She dates someone else long term, figures out he's cheating on her, and now she's single and older and wants to make her move now, and it's so spicy, so good. And we have a little bit of romantic suspense too because she does have a stalker. I loved this one. QB should for sure be on this list. We have a historical romance, and that is going to be An Earl to Remember by Stacey Reed. I love this one. I know some people don't love it, but I just could not stop listening to this audiobook. I think I listened to it over 2 days, and it's an Overboard retelling. If you know that movie with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. So good. This one, she is a chef and she's taking care of her sisters. They aren't really well off. They don't have their parents around anymore, and so she gets a job on this like cruise ship, and it's the hero who ends up seeing her and liking her, and he has his mistress on board though, and she ends up going to his room for reasons, and he thinks that she's a gift from his mistress, so he's like, oh, awesome. And she's like, what's happening? And then the mistress comes and she's like, what is happening? Throw her off the boat. This is not happening. That's not my friend I wanted you to get with. And so he ends up firing her, and she's horrified. She wants to do well for her family. So the mistress is so upset that she throws the hero overboard and he gets amnesia, washes up on shore, sees the heroine, is like, I know you. Even though he has amnesia, he's like, I remember doing things with you. And to save her reputation, she's like, cause we're married. And so they end up having to act like they're married. He comes to live with her, doesn't think it's real because he's like, I don't think I am a working class person, but they end up falling in love. It's so good. He constantly calls her his wife, and I had so much fun reading this one, and it's just so entertaining and so fast paced, and it was fun and adorable, and I loved it. Then I have Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This is the Hello Lovely exclusive edition, which is super, super pretty. I was really surprised this wasn't on the list. I think if it wasn't indie still, it would have been. This one I've seen so many people reading and loving. It is an accidental pregnancy, which I typically don't love, but the relationship in here is just so sweet. They are there for each other and communicate so well together and just fall so hard and deep for each other. And they have a one-night stand and she gets pregnant. They both have limb differentials, which is really cool to read. She was born without parts of her hand, similar to what the author herself actually has. They both work through different feelings about having a baby together and how they're gonna make it work and get to know each other and what they want for the future of their child, and it was just so sweet, and I know so many people love this and read it, so should probably be on this list. Then a new read for me was The Puck Secret. This book I was obsessed with, and I was like, everybody needs to read it. It needs to be on every list ever. 5 stars, one of my favorites of the year. It is a hockey romance that is hate to love. He detests her because her father cheated on her mom with his mom, and then people found out, and he fires her and acts like his one big happy family still. And her brother actually plays hockey with him. So he hates them and really cares for his mom, and they end up actually accidentally texting each other, not knowing it's each other, and striking up a friendship through text that they're quickly falling for each other. Her father says she has to marry someone. They are in college, and she definitely hates the guy that her dad's like, you need to marry him for political reasons. And so she's looking for someone to hook up with, walks into the wrong room, and it's our hero, and she ends up hooking up with him anyways, and that starts that relationship. So it is definitely very messy, very angsty, because they hate each other, but they're falling for each other kind of in real life, but like more so over text and don't know it, and I loved it so much. Such good hockey. It was just so good. And my last one is just because I love this book so much and I love this author so much, and it finally came out and I read it already. It came out on Tuesday of the week that I'm filming this, and it is Caution to the Wind by Gianna Darling. This book, Gianna's such a beautiful writer. Reading this book after not reading a book by her in almost 2 years made me feel so emotional because she is just such a beautiful writer, and I'm obsessed with everything she does. This was so good. And like I said, I just got emotional reading it and just would stare at the page and be like, no one writes like Gianna Darling. This one is book 7 in the Fallen Men series, and it is Axeman and May's story. It's an age gap. There's 16 years between them. It is her best friend's dad, and they end up spending a lot of time together after tragedy strikes them when she's 12, and she at 18 realizes she's in love with him, and then he goes to prison and she's responsible, and 8 years later, they have not talked in 8 years, they are reunited, and he hates her. So it is very, very angsty. So much action in here. May is so strong, and she is like a trained fighter, and she can really hold her own, and she's determined to find out this mystery that happened when they were younger, and it is so good. I'm obsessed. I cannot wait to own every edition of this book. You have to read it. And those are all the books that I think should have been on the Goodreads Choice Awards for 2023. Let me know what you think of this list and what else you would add. I would love to hear, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.